Okay, good afternoon. I'm Stephen Bedford again, and this is the progress report for our production field setup.
Hello, my name is Jill Tyler. Here I'm going to tell you a little bit about a brief review of the project. Louisiana Oil Company plan to drill 6 wells near Alexandria, Louisiana. 5 wells will produce natural gas. 1 well will produce oil. The gas well will produce approximately 97% methane, and the two other will have one interest owner, while the rest have different interest owner. Okay, here's the work breakdown structure, pretty much where everyone the structure of the project will be like breakdown everyone's responsibility in this project according to the skills and experience. Meet regularly and talked about how everyone are progressing with their tasks. Make sure all timeline are met. Keep track of all meeting and record everyone as we go. Keep contact with our project manager via phone or email to make sure we are following his instruction all the time.
Hi everyone, I'm Hunar and I am responsible to come up with the best way economically and environmentally to clear the woods in order to make roads for equipment and personal transportations as well as pipeline installations. I am planning to merge the pipelines and run them along the roads to minimize the cost and environmental damages. This photo is my current plan. The pipelines have to change direction slowly and that's why they have a curvy shape. To make sure we legally can merge the pipes and clear the woods, I asked Azine to find out about the government rules and regulations. She found out that for pipeline installations, we have to make sure we are following all DOT rules and regulations according to 49 CFR Subtitle B Chapter 1. She's also going to check with the Department of Transportation and Department of Natural Resources for required permits.
Hello guys, I'm Azine and I'm responsible in our project. I'm responsible for permitting, and one of my duty was to make sure call to the Department of Natural Resources and call them and make sure that we can merge two or more pipeline since the project that we are working is like six wells, so they have a lot of pipeline and we want to just run all this pipeline into the one main pipeline. So I called the Department of Natural Resources and they said we are good to go and we can merge two or more pipeline together as long as the maximum allowable pressure withstands the higher pressure. I had another duty and my duty was to call the Department of Natural Resources and check with them for the saltwater disposal permit. I called Department of Natural Resources and they told me that for the saltwater disposal we have to have a separator, so we can send the saltwater to the separator and make sure there is no hydrocarbon in the saltwater, and after that we can dispose it. And for disposing the saltwater we still need a permit, and we have two options here. Either we can drill a side well and inject the salt water back to the ground, which this might be expensive at beginning, might save at the end, or we can get the truck and ship out the salt water. Drilling a side well is more expensive at the beginning, but eventually we will save more money in the long run. Because at the beginning there is not going to be that much salt water, so we can just rent a truck and ship out the salt water. But we are projecting a 40 years production from these wells, so we need to make a good decision because at the end we're going to have a lot of salt water. So we are renting a truck at the end, going to be really expensive. We need to make sure that we make a best decision to be economically beneficial for the company.
Okay, this is Stephen Bedford again, and I was responsible for calculating all the costs related to the drilling and completion of the wells. Um, well number one has actually already been drilled and completed earlier this year, so I actually got the AFE from that well from the company, and I was able to kind of estimate that the other wells will be of a similar design and depth. I got that from the drilling engineer for that company. So as far as the drilling processes and the overall costs, they should be pretty similar. As far as the AFE costs, it turns out the actual cost for well one came out to be around 600,000 for, and that includes the surface equipment for production. It came out to be about 100,000 more than the AFE cost, which I've included, will be on the next slide. So for planning purposes, I'm going to assume that the cost for each additional well will also be around 600,000, and that will bring the total cost for drill completion to we're planning for 3.6 million, which is in line with our original estimate at the beginning of the project. Now that AFE was drafted in November of 2014, and the actual drilling was early this year. So with the current market conditions, the oil price being low, we could probably negotiate with to lower some of those drilling costs, like casing crew, cement, well services, completion services. So we could probably drive down a little bit of the cost of each well, but that's something we'll have to find out as we're actually drilling. Okay, and this is the AFE for well number one that was drafted November 13th of last year. As I mentioned in the previous slide, each well is going to be of a similar design. As you can see, this AFE includes completion costs and production equipment. The company the operator does own their own rigs, so they are leasing in-house. All the other services we're getting outside contractors to do as usual. And again, we could probably get the actual cost a little bit lower now based on the current market conditions.
Hi, my name is Devin King, and I'll be presenting our project timeline. As we mentioned before, we are expecting the wells to be drilled and completed in a 30-day period. So far, we have stayed on schedule and met all of our deadlines. Below is the estimates and target date of our project milestones. Our project is predicted to begin in the first month of 2016. By this time, we will have analyzed drilling costs and completions and a feasible plan for pipeline around October, and an economic analysis of production by mid-November. This project completion, though, is still to be determined. Well log analysis. Mr. Gills and I are going to analyze the well logs we received in the area. This will help give us a better understanding of the geological structure in the area, while also giving us enough data to build a decline curve analysis. With this decline curve analysis, we'll be able to give a life expectancy of this well. And with the life expectancy of a well, we are able to determine how much of profit we will be able to make. In conclusion, the team's responsibilities are broken up as shown. Mr. Bedford is to analyze the cost of drilling and completing the wells. Mr. Ebram is to design an economically feasible plan for the pipeline design. Mrs. Lewis is responsible that all regulations and guidelines are followed. And finally, Mr. Gills and I are to analyze well logs and draw a decline curve analysis.